Hi, I'm Dr. Jamil Sayed, and on this podcast, we're going to talk about some deep stuff. I'm here to tell you that you're amazing, and often, the only person who can't see that is you. No matter who you are, what you do, or where you're from, there's greatness in you. Let's talk about it. Hey everyone, I'm Dr. Jamil Sayed, and welcome to the Transformation Starts Today podcast, where I interview leaders, champions, and high performers from all walks of life as they share their story, the lessons they've learned along the way, and empowering perspectives to help you create an extraordinary life without regret, starting today. Today we have with us Kijuan Amey. Kijuan Amey, the visionary behind Amey Motivation, hails from Durham, North Carolina, where his journey of resilience and success began. After graduating from Southern High School, he dedicated a decade of his life to the U.S. Air Force, achieving the rank of Staff Sergeant as an In-flight Refueling Specialist. Medically retired, he transitioned into academia, earning a degree and founding Amey Motivation LLC. Beyond his remarkable military career, Kijuan is a man of many talents, boasting over 25 years of drumming expertise, onstage acting, and now an upcoming bestseller, Don't Focus on Why Me. However, life took an unexpected turn on May 5th, 2017, when a motorcycle accident claimed his eyesight. Yet, as Kijuan profoundly states, I may have lost my sight, but I did not lose my vision. Now, armed with an inspiring story of overcoming adversity, Kijuan has become a motivational force, empowering others to reach their highest potential. Kijuan, it's such a privilege and an honor to have you with us. Welcome to the show.
I appreciate you, Dr. Jamil, for even having me on your platform to tell my story.
Thank you so much. I'm excited for everyone to get to experience it and just getting to read the bio. Obviously, we're already getting a little
Yeah.
taste of what's going on. And so,
Yeah, man.
for our listeners who haven't met you yet, they haven't heard your story, can you just share with us who you are, what led you to this point on your journey, and anything that inspired you to do what you do right now?
Yeah, so I mean, first and foremost, I got to preface by saying I try my best not to smile every time I hear my intro and my bio
Yeah,
because sometimes I just can't believe the things I've done. You know what I mean?
yeah.
So anyway, now saying that, now, being a mentor, an ambassador, a motivational speaker, a resilience coach, all these things that I say are titles. The biggest thing I think I am the best at when it comes to all of those positions is being a listener, man.
Mm,
Because without all of that stuff, you can't do any of it. If you're not listening to anybody, what are you doing it for? Because at some point, somebody needs a listening ear in order to be heard. Because a lot of people just want to be heard. That's really the main thing they want. They want to be heard. They want to be felt. They want to be seen, understood. And so that's why I do what I do with Amey Motivation. I want to not only tell my story, but I want my story to impact you and give you hope for what you're dealing with. Because we
mm,
all go through different things in life. They're not the same. I mean, somebody could be in a motorcycle accident and then you look at my motorcycle, I say, like, well, mine is nowhere near as bad as yours. Yeah, but you know what the similarity is? We were both in an accident. And that's what I'm doing. I'm trying to connect to you. I'm not trying to separate us.
yeah.
My best thing is to connect. And that's what all humans honestly want to do anyway. We want to connect to one another. And this whole division thing, I can't take it.
Yeah.
So that's what my life is about now, is trying to bring people together and trying to, if I can unify a room, man, oh gosh, it's powerful what can happen.
Yeah. I so love that. A couple of things that you shared that I'm just taking some notes here. So
Mhm.
you said, sometimes I can't believe the things I've done. And I think for everyone listening, depending on how we grew up and what we learned, sometimes there's this, what I'm gonna call a sense of like false humility. And what
Mhm.
I mean by that is we don't feel it's okay to express our achievements, the things that we've worked so hard for, the things that are in our world that we're proud of. But if we feel like if we talk about it, that we're bragging, or if we talk
Yeah.
about it, we're boasting in a way that is maybe like making other people uncomfortable or something like
Mhm.
that.
Mhm.
But it's like if I have something truly extraordinary in my own world that I feel that this has been such an achievement, such an accomplishment. I worked really hard for this. I'm really proud of it. If I were to share that, that could inspire other people in their world to say, if he could do that, maybe I could. Or if he could do that, what's my version of that? And I could
Hmm.
step into that more. And so just the first thing I wrote down was that idea of whatever you've done that makes you go, wow, I can't even believe I pulled that off. Feel into that, engage with that,
Hmm.
dance with that, play with it, breathe it in
Yeah.
fully and accept it and share it, but share it from a space of being humble.
Right.
There's a quote I heard years ago from a mentor of mine, which I love. He said, humility is not thinking less of yourself, it's thinking of yourself less.
Mm.
And so it's not about just not thinking of yourself. It's just your focus is predominantly on the world and others and who you're serving, but you're not just ignoring you. And so that was the first thing that came to mind in what you shared.
Hmm.
The second one, I love you said it starts with listening.
Yeah.
People want to be felt, heard, seen, understood. And, I've seen that firsthand so many times. Most people in my experience are just starving for acknowledgement, appreciation. They're dying to be heard because most of us are distracted. We're in a rush. We're always looking for the next best thing. So it's like, how long can you hold my attention while I
Hmm.
actively search for
Hmm.
something else? And if
Yep.
we can just be with somebody fully, one of the ways I strive to show up in the world, and this is an invitation for all of our listeners, it's not something just about me. Everyone can do this. I strive to make the person I'm with feel like they are the center of my world. They're the only thing that exists in my world while I'm with them.
Hmm.
And when you can show up in that way, which we all can, what a gift you're giving to that other person
Yeah.
and to yourself. And then the last two things, sharing my story to give others hope. And I think that some of our listeners may think, well, I haven't been through in their mind any major challenge, or this hasn't happened, or that hasn't happened, and we discount our life story, our life experience. We've all gone through our version of challenges that were really hard for us. And like you said, somebody's motorcycle accident might have been different from yours, but there's still a commonality of
Hmm.
adversity and of challenge and that kind of come back up, that build back on the other side of it. And there's lessons that you've
Yeah.
learned. And everyone listening, there's things that you've got that you could share that could be helpful to other people. And so the last thing I wrote down was he said creating connection rather than separation, bring people together, unify a room. And I love that. I think that people have probably said this throughout history, what I'm about to say, but it seems like to a large degree, there's more polarity and more division than maybe, in a long time. And
Yeah.
and that again is a common phrase that's used over the decades. But with
Hmm.
that in mind, if we focus on the details, we kind of get lost in the minutia, you're going to always find something to disagree about.
Hmm.
But if we can chunk up, go big picture, and first start from that space of how do we create the connection? Where are we the same? And
Yeah.
if we start there, it's what the way I like to frame it, it's you and me versus the problem versus you versus me.
Yeah.
When it's you versus me, it's adversarial in nature. But when it's you and me versus the problem, there's a teamwork component. And so all of that just kind of came out of you inspired that. So I wanted to share that.
Thank you. Yeah.
Yeah. Would you mind expanding on your story for us on kind of like what was like life leading up to that accident and then what occurred? And after the fact, what was that experience like in terms of the recovery, in terms of the lessons, the insights that came? Because I can imagine the hardship of that and then how that brought you to where you're at now doing what you do.
Yeah. Well, buckle up. It's gonna be a long ride.
Yeah. We're here. We're,
Um,
we're here for it. Thank you.
yeah, so man, listen, May 5th, 2017, what some might call Cinco de Mayo, I call my new life's journey. Um, because at that time, I would be, like I said, as you heard in the bio, I would be in the military. I would also be going to school full time. And then Amey Motivation was not my first business. This is my second business. I had a business back then too, when I was in the military. As an Air Force reservist, I was able to have a little bit of free time, not much, because I kept myself busy,
Yeah. Yeah.
just wanting to stay gone and traveling. I love traveling, by the way, so it didn't bother me to jump on a plane.
Yeah.
And so not and hear me clearly, I said jump on, not out.
You're in the military. We can't be sure. We don't know what's going
Exactly.
on.
That's why I say that because everybody's like, "Well, you jumping out of those planes?" No, 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 no,
Yeah.
not I. So, yeah, I love jumping on planes. Um, and so, yeah, me being a reservist, actually being stationed in North Carolina as well. I came back to North Carolina, and that was the first thing everybody asked me. You joined the military to come back to North Carolina? I said, you don't know my job very well. I'm probably gonna be gone half the year. Okay. And so anyway, I would that day, like I said, being an in-flight refueling specialist, I'll give you a little insight into that first before I jump into the accident, so everybody kind of get where I was and understand why this was such a hard hit for me, literally. So in-flight refueling in the United States Air Force is literally what it sounds like. You're refueling planes in midair. So just imagine pulling up to a flying gas station. Eh, You ever, I don't know, some of you, I know some of my truck drivers out there heard of the Flying J. And it's a gas station that the truck drivers usually go to. But this is literally a plane in the sky, man, which is what I was on, the KC-135 Strato tanker. And they started building these things back in the 50s, man, mid 50s, like 55 or 56. I know for sure 56. I can't remember if it was up to 55 though. But anyway, that's as old as somebody's grandfather.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like it's 70 years old. And my thought process was with me being in the military, being on a plane that old, I'm thinking that was gonna be my downfall. That plane was gonna somehow, have malfunctions, fall apart. I mean, I wasn't or coming over across the pond as we call it. So coming back from Europe to the States, and we had to shut down the number three engine. The I think it was the oil pressure sensor or pressure oil pressure something had came on the light above the cockpit. It came on overhead panel, and it was like literally just flickering just a little bit, just a little bit. And it's nighttime. When we take off from Europe to come back this way, we leave at night so we can land in the morning.
Yeah.
Well, it's all the lights dim, it's dark outside, and I'm looking up and I'm like, what is that?
Yeah.
And it's like it's an orange light, and it's just a flickering. And when
Yeah.
I say flickering, it's almost like that annoying flicker.
Yeah.
And I'm like, come on. And so I tell my pilot, hey, look up above your head at the number three. And they look up and they're like, and he gets curious like a kid and touches it. And sure enough, after he releases it, it stays on. I'm like, why did you do that?
Yeah.
So now we got to run checklist, shut the engine down. I'm like, hey, look, if any more lights come on, don't touch no more buttons, okay? So that was the only time I've ever, had to shut down an engine, but I did have some close calls in the desert too when I was deployed, with actual in-flight refueling. Actually, a Navy guy, man, he almost took us out. A big old fireball behind us, and I was like, oh my God. Like it was like one of those moments. I could feel the heat, and I
Yeah.
was inside of a whole nother plane. You know what
Wow.
I mean? And it's crazy, man, just to think about those types of things. But this is the life I lived. In-flight refueling, we were, of course, refueled the Air Force planes, all the fighters, bombers, reconnaissance planes, tankers, cargo aircraft. But we also refueled the Navy and, the Harrier from the Marines. And so, man, it was amazing to say the least. The training was ridiculous. It took over a year just to get trained in that thing. And then I also became an instructor, so I taught it as well. So now that we've got given you guys a little bit of a backstory on what in-flight refueling is, because I could talk about that forever. I loved it so much. We'll go back, fast forward to now, May 5th again, 2017. And so I am now a reservist. I did 4 years active and then I switched over to the reserves because I loved it so much. I just couldn't leave it alone. And like I told you, I'm doing the reserves whenever I want. Because that's basically how the reserves work. Well, in a flying squadron, that's how it works. Some other squadrons, you only come in once a month. And then so reserves, school full time. I was studying my degree, computer information systems with a specialization in systems analysis and integration. And then my business, Kiwi Enterprise. So I was doing website design and management, social media marketing, and photography for that business. And that's actually what I would have been doing before I went to work for the Air Force that night. I was taking pictures of my church actually. It was my church, and but I was the webmaster for the website, and I wanted to update the photos because they were out of date. And I was like, oh well, this sucks. Y'all need new photos. We need pictures and stuff. That plus the website was just like somebody literally just threw it together. They used a template and put words on it. This is what it looked like. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? And so I was like, yeah, no, not with me on the prize on the case. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I hurry up and got well, tried to anyway, get a hold of that website, and I never did, to say the least. But you guys will find out why in a second. And so I rode my motorcycle from my apartment to my church to take those pictures. Well, the ride from my apartment to the church is only about 10 minutes.
Mm.
I lived that close to my church. I don't now, but I used to. And I said, that's not long enough for a motorcyclist. Motorcycle riders, we like just a little bit more riding, especially on a nice day like it was. Oh my gosh, when I tell you that day was so beautiful, it was almost like too good to be true for a rider.
Yeah.
It was like you had clouds in the sky because you don't want the sun just beating down on you the whole time while you're riding. So you had enough clouds just for them to pass by and then come out, or the sun will come out and it'll go back in, that
Yeah.
kind of thing. And so, and then it was probably like maybe 70, 80 degrees. Man, when I tell you wind blowing, oh, this is amazing. And I don't have allergies. This is amazing. And so I was like, I got to get a little bit more of a ride in before I go to work. And so I take off to the lake. There's a lake here in North Carolina called Jordan Lake near Durham. And I get there, no problems. I used to go to this lake all the time. And I mentioned the lake because if you see my book cover, Don't Focus on Why Me for Motorcycle Accident and Miracle, that backdrop is actually where I went to sit at the lake. So the trees and all that stuff that you're looking at, that's the actual spot where I used to sit. And that's why I put that picture up there. And then the motorcycle that's on the book is my actual motorcycle.
Yeah.
That's Nina. So y'all can say hi to Nina
Yeah.
and bye, because she's gone. That's
Yeah.
my baby. I miss that bike. But anyway, I took both of those pictures as well. So that's also why I told you guys I did photography and went through that spiel
Yeah.
because I took all of those well, both of those anyway. Both of the pictures on my book cover I took,
Yeah.
but I had a cover designer stitch them together.
Yeah.
And so they did a great job from what I hear. And the reason I say that, you'll find that out in a second as well.
Yeah.
So finally, here come a car from where I sat on that little dock slash pier, however you want to phrase it, comes flying by. And I say that because it's the the highway is like it's kind of above you where you sit on that pier. It's kind of down low. You go down into a little area. And so it went by and I heard it. I was like, oh snap, what time is it? And I look at my wristwatch because when I was in the military, I always kept a watch on me to make sure I knew what time it was. And so now I'm looking at my watch and oh snap, I gotta go. So I jump on the bike. I gotta go. Like I told you, I had to work that weekend. So I gotta go home, grab my bag, and I'm out. Well, on my way home, I'm riding. I had a helmet with Bluetooth capability, so I could, answer my phone, listen to music, or even have the GPS going if I needed directions somewhere. Um, but anyway, this at this point, I'm listening to music, and that's what I say, like 2017. So that was also back when that 24 karat Magic CD was really good by Bruno Mars. Everybody
Yeah.
loved it,
Yeah. Yeah.
Everybody was playing that CD, and so I'm pretty sure I was listening to it.
Yeah.
And so I'm riding and jamming out, man. And again, back to this amazing day, listening to amazing music and just having a glorious time, man. And, um, trees. So the North Carolina has trees along, and especially back in the area that I was in, and they're really tall. They're like, I don't know, 25, 30 feet tall. They're pretty tall trees.
Mm.
And they're all alongside the roads, except for when you're like at a intersection or a drive through, not drive through, driveway, somebody's driveway, or either this gas station and there was a produce farm out there. So in those areas, the trees are cut back so that you could see. The person who might be coming out can see what's coming down the road because the speed limit on this road is 55. You don't want to be pulling out in front of somebody at 55 miles an hour.
Yeah. Yeah.
Maybe more, because who really does the speed limit anymore? Except for me. And so I am, going down the street and again, everything was going great until it wasn't. And the reason I say that is because this silver Honda Accord would pull out in front of me and I had three options. I could go right and go into the trees like I mentioned to you. I could go left and go into oncoming traffic because this is only a two-lane highway.
Yeah.
This is not a multiple lane highway or road. It's just like one of these back highways that you see in the country. And the third way is I could either do what ended up happening and then that's freezing up and hitting him. I've been through all the motorcycle courses that they offer, man, except for the Harley ones because I didn't ride Harleys. But nothing prepares you for that moment. They try to do all these different you do all these different stunts and maneuvers and everything in the courses. Nothing prepares you for that moment because that's a reactional moment, not a I know it's coming moment. Because when you're going through that course, they tell you what you're about to do. When I was on it at May 5th about 2 p.m., I didn't know what I was going to do. So this is reactional. And so now my body is just like, well, we screwed. It's like
Yeah.
one of those. I don't know what to tell you. And so I hit him, and that's all I remember until I woke up in the hospital.
Mm.
And what a day that was.
Yeah.
Because I told you my accident was May 5th. Well, I woke up June the 6th.
Wow.
Yeah. Had no clue. I was first off, had no clue I was in a hospital. Secondly, had no clue I had even been in an accident yet. And lastly, I am literally thinking I'm just waking up from sleep.
Yeah. Not that it's been a month. Yeah.
Had no clue.
Yeah.
No clue I lost a month of my life yet.
Yeah.
I cannot stress that enough. I had no clue I had lost a whole entire month of my life. There's a guy named Rick James. He says cocaine's a heck of a drug.
Yeah.
I'm gonna tell you what else is anesthesia.
Yeah.
Because they kept me out for a month in a medically induced coma, man.
Yeah.
And I wake up, in the hospital, laying in that bed. And here's the thing, the kicker, the reason why I didn't know I was in the hospital is because nothing was beeping. The reason why nothing was beeping is because I'm not in that state where I needed to have the heart monitor anymore.
Yeah.
So that's gone. They just had me taking regular medication for pain and blood pressure and sleep and all these different things and to keep everything, basically suppressed. That's what the medication would do. It would just press everything down
Yeah.
so that it wouldn't spiral up, and my again, I'm going back to waking up. I I hear people talking, but I'm like, wait a minute. Why are people in my room? Like, cause again, I'm thinking I'm waking up at my apartment.
Yeah.
No clue. I'm at the hospital. So I'm like, why are people in my room? And now I'm military, so I'm thinking, do I fight? Am I supposed to be doing, my fight or flight mode? Like, what is this? Do I need to protect myself? Do I need to reach for the pistol?
Yeah.
Well, none of that will be available to me because I'm not at home.
Yeah.
And so, and then I just sit there and I listen. I was like, wait a minute. That goes back to what we were talking about earlier. I was listening, actively listening. And so I'm listening and I'm like, wait a minute, I recognize those voices. Okay, I understand why my girlfriend would be here. But what the heck is my mom doing here? Because just think about this for a second, everybody who's listening, and you as well, Dr. Jamil. When you wake up first thing in the morning, you tell me if you're ready to see people in your room that is not either your significant other,
Yeah.
yeah, you know what I mean? So
Yeah.
that's what I'm thinking about at that time. Like, what the heck is my mom? I need to cover up.
Yeah.
So, anyway, as I'm listening to them talk, they're mentioning a motorcycle accident, but they never mention who who had it. And they're just doing a bunch of generalized speaking. Like, oh my gosh, I wish this never happened. This is so terrible. I hate that he had a motorcycle accident. And I'm like, uh-oh, who had a motorcycle accident? They better tell me.
Yeah.
Look, they better tell me who it was, because I want to know. And so for those who know about possums, I was playing possum. I was just laying there like
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
laying there lifeless. And then I said, okay, this story isn't progressing like I want it to. Time to wake up. And so I finally go to open my eyes, only to not be able to see anything.
Mm.
And I'm like, okay. And so I do a really hard blink and I open my eyes again, like to see if that'll clear things up. Nope. My dimmer switch was still on.
Mm.
And now it's time to hit the panic button. Meep, meep, meep. Somebody needs to help me because
Yeah.
this game is not funny anymore. What do y'all have on my eyes?
Yeah.
And so I go to speak, since I can't see now, I go to try to talk, and the reason I say that you'll find out in a second. So I go to say hello, and I'm like, "Hmm, hmm, 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 hmm." And I could not talk because I had broken my jaw in the accident as well. So not only had I lost my eyesight, and there was no gradual loss, it was immediately. So what I cannot see right now is the same thing I woke up with.
Yeah.
I could not talk because my jaw had been broken and they wired it shut, to prevent you from damaging it any further. Teeth were like, I mean, jacked. The
Yeah.
right side of my mouth, chipped, cracked teeth. I think two of them were not loose. So I had to get, those pulled. I've had root canal after root canal after root canal. Listen, man, I know anesthetics like the back of my hand, okay?
Yeah.
Good and bad. I mean, I'll be honest, it's the best sleep I've ever had. I need some now. But it's one of those things where you really just, I mean, you come out of this thing like, wait, what? This is like a nightmare. And and unbeknownst to me, also, I did not know this yet, but I had also lost the sense of smell, and I still don't have my sense of smell. And that was due to the reconstructive surgery they did to my face because my face was crushed in, um, which is also why I had to have a trach done as well because all of this was like just smashed up until they, put two metal plates in my head to restructure my face. If you can see right here, Dr. Jamil, can you see that groove
Yeah.
there?
Yeah, I see it on the
That's the
forehead.
metal plate.
Wow.
Yeah, that's one of them. And so, you know, I I mean, I'm sitting here panicking trying to figure out what's next. Like, what is going on? And they finally, they're recognizing that I'm awake and that I'm panicking in a sense and
Yeah.
trying to communicate. So they come to my bedside and they're like, "What's wrong? What's wrong?" And I'm trying my best to be calm and ask questions that they can understand. But it's not working. It is not working. And the reason I say it's not working is because I'm, just kind of yelling to see if they can hear me, and they can't. And they're like, "Hold on." My mom's like, "Hold on, hold on." And I'm like, I get upset. I'm just, and so she's like, "Here." And I'm like, "What?" And she's like, "Hold your hands out." And so I'm like, and she places a notepad and a pen in my hand. And I gave her probably the meanest side eye you could ever imagine giving somebody. I was like, "Really?" I know I can't see. One of those things. And
Yeah.
she's like, "Just try to write down something and so we can understand you." I was like, "Whatever." So I tried it and then I handed it back to her. And it was the same thing that I've told you guys already. It's basically asking what this motorcycle dream was of that you guys keep talking about because I don't know about it.
Yeah.
And so she read it and she turns to me and she's like, "Oh, that's not a dream. That's what happened to you." Never said anything else that day. That was the last thing I communicated on that day. And this is how I tell everybody, man, you could have literally came in there and stabbed me with a needle. I wouldn't even have known.
Yeah.
Because it literally felt like my world was just turned upside down, man. I mean, there's so many different sayings for this. Like you get hit with a ton of bricks. I felt like I just got hit with a freight truck. I so the weight of the world is on my shoulders. There's so many different things you could say about it. I just want to know what to do. What do I do with this information now? That was what I was trying to figure out. And so the thoughts started going. I mean, when I tell you, so for people that don't know, I don't know, Dr. Jamil, you might know this, but the human mind can compile up to about 40,000 thoughts a day. Okay. That's a lot to be sitting there and you haven't said a word. And so I'm just going through all of these thoughts and trying to figure out how did this happen? What happened? Was it my fault? Did I do something crazy? I don't usually do anything crazy. What? So why did I do it? I mean, when I say I'm going back and forth everywhere, all over the place. Did I even make it to work? I'm trying to figure it all out. Oh my God, speaking of work, am I AWOL? Do they know I'm here? I am going nuts.
Yeah.
And so, fine, I think it was the next day. So either I think it was June the 7th. But I finally, get the notepad back because again, I can't really, they're not really able to understand me. So I finally get the notepad back and I'm writing and I'm like, "Hey man, what happened? I need to know. I really want to know. I understand it was a motorcycle accident, but do you have any more information?" And that's when they told me everything about the guy pulling out in front of me. Oh, I did not mention this. Remember I said how the trees were cut back at the
Yeah.
intersections?
Yeah.
Not only were the trees cut back so you could see me, there were two other cars behind him at the same intersection that saw me coming.
Yeah.
Oh, you know how I know that? It was on the police report. So now I'm really pissed because that means something distracted you. Either something distracted you or you just were negligent. You didn't care. Either way, I don't like either one of those answers.
Yeah.
And he did try to come see me at the hospital, but I declined the visit. My mom, she was like, "Hey, the guy, he wants to come visit you." I was like, "What guy?" She's, the guy who, caused the accident. I said, "What?" And she was like, "Yeah, he said he wants to." I said, "Do you want me to go to jail?" And she's like, "What? What do you mean?" I said, "If he comes in this room, I'm going to find a way to get him." And I meant every minute, every bit of it. I meant everything about that. I was going to find some way to get him. Now, Dr. Jamil, I could not walk. I couldn't barely move my legs. I, but when I'm determined and my mind is made up, don't mess with me. That's what I will say. Do not mess with me because I have had to do that once. This was before I was actually fully back healthy and walking because I had to learn how to walk again. I actually, I was at the time I was using a walker to get around. Well, wheelchair and then walker. But if I was supposed to be walking or taking steps, I was supposed to be using a walker. Well, I got so frustrated with somebody because they left me that I got up and started walking on my own without any support. I'm using every sink, wall, door, whatever it was, I'm using it to lean up against or, just keep my arms balanced. I was using everything. So again, going back to the injuries, honestly, because I told you about my mouth. That was like the cheapest part of everything. And that's $20,000 after insurance pays their part. So you got my eyes, they were damaged as well. I have damaged blood vessels in my left eye. The bottom portion of my right eyelid was torn off. And so my eye was popped out. They had to do skin grafting from my left clavicle, which is your collarbone area, excuse me, to repair it. And that was one of the crazier things because that eye can actually see light and the left one can't see anything. It's completely dark.
Yeah.
And then you have, like I told you, the trach. I had a neck collar on too. That was because I had severe whiplash. Like I had really bad whiplash. And then you move down to my spinal cord. That was broken. And so f from L4 to T2, I am medically infused with two rods and 12 screws. And then I broke both of my legs. My right leg, I broke my femur. The femur is the largest bone in the body, and that's, for those who don't understand, that's the thigh where your thigh is, and hamstring as well. They're attached to it. But that's a metal rod on the right side, and then on the left side, my shin bone, basically. So from knee all the way to ankle is a metal titanium rod. On my right leg, I think the right leg is where I fractured my fibia. And I also have a metal screw in my right foot. And my feet are now two different sizes. I used to wear a size 10, no problem. Now my left foot is a 10 and my right foot is an 11 wide. And so I have to wear customized shoes now. Yep. Oh yeah, and just for fun, I have trigger finger on my left hand.
Yeah.
That's like the easiest thing to deal with.
Hmm. Thank you so much for sharing such a powerful story. It is a miracle
Yes.
that you're here with us. And for our listeners, if I may just share a few reflections, like there's different ways that I'm viewing this. One thing that stands out, how quickly life can change.
Yes.
And it's like the people can take what I'm about to say to an extreme, and I ask you not to do that. Play in the world of just getting what I mean as the message. Because life can change in an instant, with what level of intentionality are you bringing to the moment? That driver who was in that car, whether it was a cell phone thing or whether they were doing whatever they were doing, they were distracted. And look what the impact of that was.
Yeah.
That person's not here, so we don't know what's going on in that person's world, how much guilt or whatever else that person's dealing with. And so look at what was created, the ripple effect of impact that it had on the lives of so many people, first in the negative side of it. And now imagine if that was you. And like this is what you could cause by not paying attention, by not being present. And on the other side of it, look at all the positive impact Kijuan has created in the world and the lives that he's impacted in a positive way as a result of the adversity that he's not only overcome, but learned from, and he shares openly. And so I'm grateful that something beautiful has come from it. And at the same time, just hearing the story and hearing the impact that it's had, I hope it's a wake-up call to everybody listening. Again, how quickly life can change. I can really appreciate the level of, excuse me, lightheartedness that you bring to aspects of your story where you're able to laugh and you're able to look back on that day and think about how beautiful it was and how it was just like the perfect writing day. And I'm glad that you had that experience, and that's fantastic. And again, it's just that reminder of how quickly life can change. And I often tell clients and people when I give talks on my own with groups, how much time do you have left? And we all have the same answer. The answer is, I don't know.
Yeah.
And if you took the hourglass of life, the metaphor of that, and you turned it over, we all have different amount of sand on the top because we
Yeah.
all have different lifetimes, let's say durations. And so how much sand do you have left? You don't know. So every moment that goes by, there's less sand on the top and there's more on the bottom. And you may have more on the bottom than you have left on the top.
Yeah.
And if we come from that space, is the way I'm using my sand worthy of it? Is it worth it? Am I proud of it? Am I happy about the way that I'm investing my life force? And where how you were on that bike, it sounds like the answer is yes. You loved it, you loved your work, you loved all these different aspects.
Yeah.
And I'm so grateful that you found the silver lining in the experience. And I imagine there's moments that are, unbelievably hard along the way. And at the same time, it sounds like there's so many people whose lives you've positively touched.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. I know that as it relates to your story, as it relates to your book, the titles don't focus on why me. Can you share with us the meaning that that has for you?
Yeah, well, it's kind of a two-parter. The first part of it is that back end of it, that why me part of it. The first thing we want to do when something negative happens to us, and it doesn't matter how big, how small it is, we want to ask why me.
Yeah.
So that was the first thing I did. I started questioning my faith. Why me? Why did this have to happen to me, Lord? Why did you choose me to go through something like this? I thought I was doing the right thing. What had happened? What did I miss? What help me? And as much as I wanted to keep arguing with him, at some point I started running out of questions. And he finally was like, "Are you done?" And I was like, "I guess so." And so he said, "Well, why not you?" And that right there, to just be hit with something, man, what do you mean? Why not? Hey, listen, see, that's the problem. That's why people be having problems with you right there. And look, me and God, we have real talks, we have real conversations. See, I said, see, that's the problem. That's why people be talking bad about you now, because you come back with questions like that. Ain't no well, why not you? See, you got a smart mouth. This is the problem. And he was like, no, seriously, why not you? You know how to do things without your eyesight. You do your things with eyes closed. Dr. Jamil, you could see behind me. I have a drum set behind me and a
Yeah.
keyboard.
Yeah.
I can play both of those without my eyesight.
Yeah.
He was like, you can still do that. I've been playing drums since I was 7. And I lost my eyesight at the age of 25. So there is a way. As they say, where there is a will, there is a way. It's all up to you. I mean, the key thing about what he was revealing to me is it can be done. And I listen, I've done so many things that I had no clue I would be doing. Because when I started not to focus on the why me portion, I started winning. I started doing things that I never thought I would be doing. I never in a million years had the thought to be shooting archery. I feel like I was in the Hunger Games, man. I
Yeah.
was like, this is cool, having fun. And not only shooting archery, but good at it. I've actually hit a bullseye.
Yeah.
Like literally center, bow, right in the middle. Hit a bullseye. Without sight. Tell me how many people doing that with sight.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so I've done archery, and I'm just gonna name things that I never thought I would do. I mean, I shoot guns all the time, so I won't name air rifle. But done archery, you know, rowing, I didn't see myself doing that. I want to do kayaking, surfing, and sailing. I'm hoping to get to do that this year, but we'll see. Uh, I've done skiing,
Mm.
downhill skiing. I did that last year in Vermont. I did rock climbing. When I was thinking about all this stuff I was like, yo, this is nuts. I never thought in a million years. And then me being an athlete prior to my accident, I found my way right back into it with adaptive sports and competitions. The only sport, well, two, two sports that I used to play that I can't really play now because it involves a ball and people moving towards you
Yeah.
is basketball and football. And I don't want to get hit with a football or get hit by a person
Yeah.
coming towards me because I got the football.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So that football is my love, and that's why I talk about it so much. But other than that, man, I've actually been to Disney. Didn't have to pay for a thing. My athleticism paid for it all because there was a competition. It's called the Department of Defense Warrior Games, and that's where all the branches compete against each other. Disabled veterans, by the way. And so we went to Disney for 2 whole weeks, scot free, and we got to go to the park for a day. Everybody else got kicked out. It was
Oh,
just us in
wow.
the park, man.
Wow. That's amazing.
No line. I was like, oh, not just we got to ride the rides. We got to eat whatever we wanted for free. We got to drink whatever we wanted for free. I didn't drink because I knew I had to compete. I wasn't doing that. I was smarter than the average bear. And that's why the Marines didn't do too good.
Yeah.
The Marines are up there drinking in there. I said, "Yep, we know who gonna lose." But sure
Mm.
enough, it was such an amazing thing, and I never thought I would be able to get back into sports, man. But when eyes, my eyes were reopened to being able to do things like that, I was just like, "Oh man,
Yeah.
I have hope again." And so that's where my book title really came from.
Yeah. Something that you just said about I never thought in a million years.
Yeah,
And there are people listening right now, and it's not a comparison thing. It's
yeah,
just a recognition. You're telling yourself a story right now about why there's all these things that you can't do.
yeah,
And you've got reasons. And for you, those reasons feel sound. They feel justified. They feel valid. But here's an example of a person who's been through a challenge that so many of us would think is horrendous beyond measure and is finding a way to compete and to travel and to enjoy and to experience as much life as possible. And, unfortunately for most people, it seems like there's that massive trauma, that wake up call, that near death experience, that something that's the thing that jars them to the point where they change. But my
Mm,
hope is that at least one person can hear your story and instead of having to go through it themselves, they can learn from your experience and start
right,
changing the way they live their life now.
right, exactly. And you used a key word that came to my mind instead of comparing. I challenge you to do something different. Be adventurous. Go explore. Do new things. They they don't see, we got to get out of this bucket list mentality. Bucket lists are meant for a certain time in life. No, start today. Now I want you to start today. You could be 25, 35, 55, 75. Start today. Because I ran into people that were all different ages. And they like when I went rock climbing, I think that what she was either I think she was almost 70, man. And she was doing that.
Yeah.
Start today.
I remember when I was in medical school, there was in the first year, there was a woman in my class, and I think she was in her early 60s. And she was there because she was passionate about the topic and she really wanted to help people. And she was ready for the next 5 to 10 years of a commitment that she was going to be
Mhm.
stepping into. And it's like, what, again, going back to how much time do you have left? What is worth the rest of your life? And the rest
Right.
of your life might be decades and it might be days, it might be hours, but what is worth the rest of your life? And only you get to decide that. There's not a right, wrong answer there.
Hmm.
And you mentioned the drum set, the keyboard behind you,
Yeah.
the 20-ish years or plus that you've been playing. Would love to hear what has music meant for your life?
Music listen, that is the one of the biggest things in my life. I mean, I'm very musically inclined, not just the drums and keyboard. I just started learning keyboard in 2020 because I was bored, literally.
Mm,
When we hit the pandemic and got shut down, I got bored. So I started learning the keyboard. And I mean, I also, sing and uh, do voiceover, all kinds of stuff, man. Music is, I love to listen to music. I've even tried DJing. I mean, I can't get away from music. And if I do, my life starts to fall apart.
mm,
And then as soon as I listen to some good music, oh, I'm back alive. Yes, yes, I'm back. I mean, literally like livens you up. Now, hear me clearly. Music has a true play on your feel. So if you're playing negative things, you're playing sad songs, but guess what you're gonna feel? You're gonna feel negative. You're
yeah.
gonna feel sad. So when you
Mm,
play stuff into what I say is when you play it into your spirit, that's how you feel. And so I do my best to like, yeah, try to shake it up. I
yeah.
want the mixture of happy. So
Yeah.
yeah, that's what I do. I
Yeah.
love music, man.
Yeah, me as well. And it's interesting the point you just made. A friend of mine, when we were in med school together, he told me, I think in our second year or so, he said, when I was in college, I was just depressed like all the time. And then I realized after however long he was feeling this, he was listening to music every day often, very often, not
Mm.
realizing that all of the lyrics of the songs were the most, in his opinion, depressing things that he can imagine. And
Yeah,
when he stopped listening to those songs, he felt so much better.
yeah,
And
exactly.
so that's the first thing. You definitely be aware of what are you letting in, whether, and it could be, it's almost like audit your environment, whether
Yeah.
it's the people that you're around, whether it's the conversations that are being had. It could be like a gossiping kind of thing as an
Hmm.
example, or is it, whether it's a podcast or a song or a TV show or whatever you're reading, whatever it might be, what are you consuming? It's like, what are you feeding your mind? And whatever you're feeding, just like whatever you put into your body from a nutrition perspective becomes your physical body, like your body turns it into bones and tissues and cells and all these kind of things.
Yeah.
What are you feeding your mind? That's going to shift into your emotional state, your mental state, like you were just saying.
Yep.
That's the first thing. And the second thing, a challenge I have for the audience. It's a simple question that when I first heard it, I thought was a very interesting perspective. And it's, when is the last time you did something for the first time?
Mm,
And so here Kiwan is, 2020-ish learning the keyboard because he's bored. Here he
yeah.
is rock climbing. Here he is doing all these things. And
Yeah.
like you said, never in a million years, some of these things you thought you'd be doing either ever or again or whatever it might be.
Yeah.
And for our listeners, very often, because we don't, no one does this intentionally, but unintentionally, we're living the same kind of day every day for most of our lives. And if you
Hmm.
sit there and you say, hold on a second, what if I changed it up? And I'm going to just throw some things out there to try on. What if I signed up for a dance class like once a month or once a week? Or let me just go experience it. It's a style I've never done before, never
Hmm.
even really heard about it, but let's try it out. I'm going to go do martial arts. I'm going to join some, intramural program or some league and a sports kind of thing that is like a baseball team or a something team. I'm gonna paint. I'm gonna draw. I'm gonna take on some new skill. I'm gonna try an instrument. I'm gonna learn a new language, like something. Doesn't matter what it is, but the point is like change it up. And if you
Hmm.
change it up, it's pretty amazing. Life becomes really interesting. But when people say I'm bored, I have this quote that I shared like years ago, and it's not meant to be like offensive. It's just coming from a space of you feel bored because you're being boring. And it's that idea. It's not that you are that, but you're being that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because
It's an
it's
active
like,
being.
yeah,
Yeah.
what is there available to you in the world? Essentially everything. And anything that could be done to some degree or another, you could find a way to do it to some degree. Now, if you're bored, it's just because your attention is on what's right in front of you, what's missing, and that it's not on what you could be doing. And so from that space, it's just you stay in that stuck state. And so play with the question, when's the last time I did something for the first time? And even if it was today I did something for the first time, fantastic. Keep asking the question and keep playing in that world. And every week, can you schedule something in that you've never done before? Or can you do it in a way that you've never done before? Or,
Right.
or maybe you're going to drive to work or something. Drive in a direction you don't normally go. Maybe you,
Hmm.
change up what you eat, like whatever it is, but experience more. Like that's the juice of life. Experience more. There's all these things. You mentioned rock climbing, and I'm traveling currently with my girlfriend, and so I haven't rock climbed in a while, but I rock climbed for about 3 years, 2.5 to 3 years, um, probably 2022 to 20 mid 2024, something like that,
Hmm.
and loved it. And it's something that
Hmm.
I really didn't do much before, and it was so new and it was unique, and it was my like, what's the thing you've never done that you're gonna do for the first time? And I just grew in ways that were really great. And so I just offer that as a loving challenge to everybody listening. Use this podcast opportunity that you're tuning into as an opportunity to look at your calendar, look at your planner, and if you have the opportunity to check out the last several months, compare. What's April looking like right now? And how did March and February and January look? And does each month look kind of the same? Is what you scheduled mostly the same? And if that's
Hmm.
the case, what if you change that up? What could be possible? And the beauty is, to a large degree, you don't know. That's why it's exciting. And if you can
Hmm.
step into that, life becomes so much richer.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now, what have you found are the most common stories that people are buying into that hold themselves back?
Oh, stories. That's an interesting.
Stories, beliefs, however you'd like to
Well,
interpret it.
see, well,
Yeah.
see, the thing that comes to my mind is other people putting labels on you.
Mm, so powerful.
And I say that because I speak from experience. That was one of the hugest things or one of the biggest things in my life that was actually holding me back from initially, jumping out here and doing all this stuff that I told you about. Because everybody was so nervous. Oh, I don't know if you should do that. Oh, wait, who's gonna go with you? I'm gonna go by myself. Listen, they've got instructors. I'll be just fine, you know. And I mean, I'm sitting there thinking, it's not like y'all can teach me anyway. So obviously somebody's gonna be teaching me. I don't think anybody else in my family has skied. And if they have, they haven't told me. Okay.
Yeah.
And you know what I'm saying? So I'm out here breaking barriers. That's what I'm trying to do things, not just to say that I've done it, but to say that it can be done.
Yeah.
That's the difference. Not just to say that I've done it, but to say that it can be done. And so, it's not necessarily the stories. For me, it's more about people labeling me.
Yeah.
Hey, listen, don't label me uh this blind guy Kijuan. No, I am Kijuan Amey who is now blind. There's a difference because I was Kijuan before I became blind. I wasn't born like this. There are people who were. I wasn't born this way. So I've done things before and, seen things before this happened. And it actually, shapes your life differently than somebody who's never seen a thing.
Yeah.
And so those are the types of things that I look at, man. And I mean, granted, people forget, hear me clearly, people do forget that I'm blind and I'm thinking it's probably because of the fact that I hadn't seen before. And I know a lot of things like places that I've been, my house, my grandma's house, my church. I know these places very well. And like the back of my hand, the only thing that's different are the people moving in it. So, so, um, it, it's just one of those, and that's where I'll leave it at.
Yeah. Yeah, there's two things there that I would love to share in response.
Mhm.
The first one just came to me a moment ago. So, for all of us, this happens in different ways, but life happens and then we respond however we respond. In
Mhm.
your situation, there was the loss of eyesight and smell and things of that nature. For somebody else, maybe the loss of a relationship. For somebody else, it's they lose their job or it's a loss of something, whatever that
Mhm.
turns into.
Mhm.
And then we get to decide, and I use that word intentionally because at some point you realize that there's a decision there, but there may be in the beginning some either resistance to that or you're not conscious of the decision. But at some point you realize, all right, something happened. I can't do anything about that. I can't go back and change that, but something happened. Given that that's the case, what do I want to do with this? Who do I want to be? How do I want to show up in the world? Like, how do I want to live my life? Like, that's happened. Got it. What now? And
Mhm.
it's like there's something really powerful about that. And when we can recognize whatever happened, happened, respect to it, I hear you, there's struggle, all of that. And it's not happening anymore in the sense of whatever the sort, in your case, like the actual physical accident. Now it's the aftermath. And now it's where do I go from here? And when you bring the second part, which is so powerful, you said other people, in response to my
Mhm.
question, and the labels, there's a
Yeah.
biblical phrase, the power of life and death is in the tongue.
Mhm.
And so if we come from the phrase, imagine there's a little kid, and this applies to adults too, in this example you're sharing, but let's say there's a little kid and the little kid says to the mom or the dad, when I grow up, I want to be insert whatever, astronaut, I want
Mhm.
to be the president, I want to be this.
Yeah.
And if the adult, for whatever the reason, believes that's like no way in hell that's happening, and the
Mhm.
adult says, "Oh, you can't do that. You're not smart enough," or "You can't do that. Like, we're not the kind of people who do A, B, and C."
Yeah.
In a way, without maybe meaning to, you just killed and took away the possibility of that dream coming
Yeah.
true
Yep.
because by no longer seeing, let's say, himself or herself as that kind of person, that life path gets closed because that kid's not going to go down that path anymore because you're going to assume not possible, I
Yep.
can't do it, not good enough, not smart enough, whatever.
Yep.
And so, where are there labels that either and this could be a big moment for people listening. Where are there labels that, first of all, that you are projecting onto somebody else without maybe even meaning to, that you're limiting them? Now they have to buy into it, but
Mhm.
but if first let's take responsibility on your side. Where are
Yeah.
you putting a label on somebody else about why they cannot do something, why they shouldn't, why, you're free to have your opinion, but
Yep.
the moment you try to get them to buy into your reality, your story that limits what they want to do, most of the time that's probably not serving them. Sometimes it could be, but most of the time it's probably not serving them. So yeah, please go ahead.
You just said a word and it sparked a saying.
Yeah.
So Fear to me is false evidence altering reality. You just said the word reality, so that's what brought it to me.
Yeah.
And that's usually what people are projecting on others. Their fear, the false
Yes.
evidence of that alters the reality. Because you think they're not able to do it, doesn't mean they're really not able.
Yeah.
They could actually do this thing. They could truly. I didn't know I could freaking ski.
Yeah.
And but if I had listened to somebody who was like, "Ooh, I don't think you should do that. That don't sound too good for a blind man. You might run into a tree or something." You know, not once did I hit a tree.
Yeah.
Only time I fell was when I caused myself to fall when I was stepped too far off until the snow gets very soft.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
not packed down in the areas in certain areas. It gets
Mhm.
really deep.
Yeah.
That was when I fell.
Yeah.
Not when I was skiing.
Yeah.
It was when I was resting. And had I allowed the fear of others to penetrate me in my thoughts, I would have stuck with that altered reality.
Yeah. I love the way you put that because that's the first time I've heard it phrased like that. I've heard the acronym people use of fear, false evidence appearing real.
Yeah.
And I love what you just shared because that to me is more accurate. False
Hmm.
evidence altering reality. And it
Hmm.
goes to the last part I was going to share with that previous statement. So first, it's where is the labels that you're putting on other people without meaning to. More than likely, you're not intentionally doing it. But whether you realize it, whether you're intentional about it or not, if you see the negative impact it could be having, then you could change course and you could stop that. But then where are you accepting labels from other people based on their fear, based on their insecurities, but based on what they believe is impossible because they wouldn't let themselves do it. And now they're projecting it on you and they're saying you can't do that. And now that's false evidence altering your reality.
Hmm.
And so where are you letting that in? And so it's almost like think of it as I often tell people language is simultaneously the most powerful thing in the world and it's completely meaningless.
Hmm.
And the reason is because words only have the meaning we give them. It's just a sound. It doesn't have a meaning outside of that. But from the space of it is the most important thing if you accept it. So if someone says you can't do something and you let that in and you conclude that's true, then it's true for you. There's that Henry Ford quote, he who thinks he can and he who thinks he can't are both usually right.
Yep.
And that just becomes our reality. So where are you buying into other people's labels for you about your life, your future, what's possible for you? And I love that you mentioned, I'm the only one, I think you said in my family, who skis or who skied. And that's so beautiful. And it's like, what if we played in that world of, all right, yeah, maybe a bunch of people haven't done it. There's an Arnold Schwarzenegger short quote slash story where he said something like, I love it when people tell me no one's ever done whatever it is I'm trying to do. And I love it because that means I'm going to be the first one who's done it.
Hmm.
And like, notice the assumption. The assumption isn't, well, no one's ever done it, therefore I can't. It's no
Right.
one's ever done it, but I'm going to. So therefore
Yep.
I'm going to be the first. And some people might think, well, that may be delusional or something. But the idea is those are the only people that actually pull it off because they're the ones who stick with it.
Hmm.
And so whatever it is that's important to you, move in, like lean in, play all out with it, give it your best, learn from it. And very often, again, there's exceptions, but get the message, get what we're both trying to share here. There's so much more available for you that's possible in your life experience that would be so enjoyable, so fulfilling, so expansive, and it's waiting for you. You just haven't leaned in yet.
Hmm.
Yeah. And so, Kiwan, if our conversation today was your last opportunity to share your message with the world, if there was something on your heart that you wanted to make sure people heard, because maybe this is the last time they would hear you, what would you want to make sure you left them with?
Well, first and foremost, it goes back to my situation, but this can be used for anybody. Anybody can apply this to their life. If you're going through any hardship, adversity, what have you, don't let your situation define who you are. You define who you are. And that's going back to those labels. Don't let the label define you. Don't let the ADD, ADHD, the bipolar depression disorder, don't let the suicide, none of that stuff that they try to attach. I want you to do one thing. When somebody try to attach a label to you, go ahead, put some oil on you, and it's gonna slip right off.
Yeah.
Let it slide right off because that's not a definition. That is just something that happens because all these things are momentary. If you think about like, for example, bipolar, it kind of switches. When you think about depression, it switches. Like you could be depressed one moment and next thing you're like, oh, they're acting different. You know, and the way I think about things is I don't let that stuff define me. I'm the one who defines me. Talk to the person, not to the label.
Yeah.
So that's how I think of that stuff.
I think it's so profound from, in my paradigm, from a healing perspective, from a medical perspective, from a coaching perspective, and just from a human perspective. It's like you just said, help slash work with slash communicate with the person, not the label.
Yes.
And it reminds me of there's a movie I saw it a while back. It was called Patch Adams.
Mm.
And Robin Williams in this case is playing Patch Adams, and he's in medical school, and he's this beautiful, like lighthearted, connected to his heart, man in the movie and in real life, I believe. And in the movie, he's in his third year of medical school, and this is back in like the 80s or the 70s or something. And he's going throughout like the rounds in the hospital, and he's with a group of students and this attending physician. And they walk up to this woman who's laying on this hospital bed in the middle of the hallway. And, probably in a different but similar way, they like when in your story, you wake up in the hospital bed, you don't really know where you are. She's just sitting there looking around, kind of like terrified because everyone's just walking by, kind of ignoring her. And then the group of students surround her, and now the doctor goes, here is and I don't remember the age, so I'll just make it up. Here's a 57-year-old, diabetic who's got A, B, and C. Any questions? And then one student says one question, and then they keep asking questions about the medical case and everything. And then Patch raises his hand, and the doctor goes, yes, Patch. And he goes, what's her name?
Right.
And then the doctor looks at him and he looks down at the paper and he has to flip through and then he goes like, I think it's Mary. He goes, Mary. And then Patch looks at the patient and he goes, hi, Mary. And then Mary looks at him with this almost like terrified slash
Hmm.
relieved hi. And
Yeah.
it's like in that moment, she was treated as a person. She was
Right.
seen. And
Exactly.
and so I know the movie, I've spoken to doctors who don't like that scene because they think it's over exaggerated, but the idea that take
It
it
can
for what
happen
yeah,
though.
it can happen. So take it for what it is. Relate to somebody as the person, as the spirit, as the soul, as the whatever you want to call that, but not as their condition or their
Hmm.
label or their whatever. Because like you said, it's not who we are. It's something that we're experiencing, but
Hmm.
it's not who we are. And it's like it's amazing the connection you can create with both other people and with yourself when you let go of that label and say, all right, got it. This is a reality currently. I'm dealing with A, B, and C, but I don't let it define me in a way that puts me in a box where now I can't live the life I want to live.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So, Kiwan, for our listeners who would love to connect with you, learn more about you, find your book, bring you on to speak, whether it's an event, a podcast, whatever that might be, what's the best way to get in contact with you?
Yeah, sure. So you can go to my website at amymotivation.com. That is AMEY motivation.com. You could find my book link on there. Don't focus on why me from motorcycle accident to miracle. That is the Amazon link, and that'll be the paperback version. If you would like to get the Kindle version, you can go on Kindle and search the same title. Also on Audible and Apple Books, that is the audio versions. You can get it in the audio version. If you would like to book me for speaking engagements, you can go to that same website and you'll find the booking link. We can set up something there. It'll reach out to my personal business email and we can go from there. If you would like to check out some videos, You can go to my website as well and you can hear me speak. And I even have some videos of me playing the drums.
Wonderful. I'll have links to everything that Kiwan shared in the show notes. And first of all, for our listeners, thank you so much for taking the time to be with us today. If this has resonated with you, if you can please at least share it with one person, especially if there's anyone who's going through some adversity. And again, it's not a comparison thing, but as an example, Kiwan's story has some tremendous challenges in there that he has experienced, overcome, and now he's on the other side and he's having these wonderful life experiences despite all that. And that can be so eye-opening, awakening, perspective shifting for the right person. And so please share this with at least one person. Leave a review, leave a comment on YouTube, Amazon, not Amazon yet, but what is it? Apple, Spotify. It's fine. I always mix those up. Wherever it
Yeah.
is that you're gonna be tuning into
Yeah.
this, it helps
hmm
people find it. And so please do that. Thank you again. And Kiwan, anything you'd like to say before we conclude?
Last thing I'll add, I forgot to mention my social media handles. You can find me on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, as well as LinkedIn. And if all you have to do is search my first and last name, Kijuan Amey.
Beautiful, beautiful. Well, thank you so much. I have called this podcast Transformation Starts Today. And I call it that because I found that most people's favorite day to change their life is tomorrow. And that's why they stay stuck. But you can be different. You can change. You can be with our conversation today and you can play with those questions. How much time do I have left? When's the last time I did something for the first time? Where am I allowing someone else's label to make me play smaller than I'm capable of playing, whatever it might be. And you can begin to shift the way you're living your life. And if as a result of this, your life has some more excitement, some more fun, some more diversity, variety, whatever it might be, you have invested your time well. All my love to you and your loved ones. I look forward to the next time we're together. Kiwan, again, thank you so much for taking the time.
Thank you.
Be well. Thank you for being with us today. If this conversation served you, it would mean a lot if you left a review and shared this with anyone who may benefit. An extraordinary life without regret is available to you now. Choose it. It's your time.